Welcome back to another episode of the Vanderbilt Political Review. I'm your host, Noah Jenkins, and today we have a very special episode. We were supposed to talk about the comparison between the legacy of Charlie Kirk, obviously tragically assassinated about a month ago, and the ascendance of Mamdani in New York, the man favored to be the next mayor of New York City. Our conversation with Cole Patterson, by the way, a VPR writer, ended up being mostly about, however, the question of fascism and whether the right under Kirk and Trump and figures like them can be rightly or should be rightly characterized as being fascistic or incorporating or approaching some degree of fascism. It's a longer episode, but I think it's well worth the watch. So without further ado, here it is. So you wrote your last article.
Yes.
Your first article?
My first article.
All right.
So I'm kind of getting started.
But Cole Patterson here wrote his first article talking about the Trump and Epstein. How would you describe it? I'll let you describe it yourself, actually.
Describe myself or my article?
Oh, the article. And then if you want to go into yourself, that's totally fine as well.
The article was called Trump and Epstein's Ageless Wonderful Secret Haunts the White House. The ageless wonderful secret in here being basically Trump's own wording in this letter, which if I recall, it's like nothing's ever beyond a shadow of a doubt. But I think the evidence is pretty strongly in favor of him having sent it, of him having sent the letter. But it's in reference to the letter, which had, to anyone who reads it, you can't ignore it. Has very strange wording. And my article was basically going into the wording of that letter, which I think nobody has really, I don't know why, but no one seems to me to have been brave enough to really touch on the wording of that letter and how strange it is. How strange it is and how implicating it is. Of course, you can't say what exactly is implicated in it, but I'm of the belief that it implicates Trump, and if it is his, which I think the evidence says it is, pretty bad stuff.
Right.
But that was my article.
And then you.
Yes, and then me. I'm a physics major. I joined the VPR very recently. And I've been attending ever since. I very much enjoy it. I enjoyed writing my first article, and I enjoy going to general board meetings where we get to talk about any issue of the present. And I'm usually somewhat outspoken during those meetings.
Okay, perfect. So the topic that we're here to talk about today, obviously in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination, which just I guess to make it known, 1 hour before the assassination happened, I was sitting right here with our editor-in-chief doing our podcast. We're talking about the importance of civil discourse.
Yes.
And we were sitting right here, and then literally an hour later, we get the news of what happened. It's just crazy. But on one side, Charlie Kirk and his legacy, and obviously him being on the right, the youth representative of the right, informally, but we certainly could see it that way. Contrasted with Mamdani on the
Zohran Mamdani.
Yes, on the left.
Democratic candidate for the New York City mayor. Usually a Democratic candidate for New York mayor would not be a prominent political figure, but he has become pretty extremely, not just nationally, but internationally recognized for his almost kind of shocking upset. And of course, the actual real election, not just the primaries, coming up November 4th.
Both very salient topics. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And they're both young men who are extremely popular with other young men and young women, young people,
right?
And who are pretty electrifying to those who believe in what they believe.
So let's start with Kirk, and then we'll move into Mamdani, and then maybe do a Venn diagram of sorts. Of
compare and contrast, exactly.
And what that means, implications. We'll just kind of see where it goes. So obviously, the main difference between the two men, as it stands, is obviously one is alive, one is not. One exists as a legacy, as a memory,
and one's just getting started.
It's kind of opposite. One had his sunset and one's having his sunrise in a way.
Yes. It's a pretty fascinating dichotomy there.
Right. So I'll start by asking you, what did you think Charlie Kirk meant to the right?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I'll start with that. It's a big question in and of itself. So.
Yeah, and I would like you to give your answer
Sure.
as a representative of the right.
Right.
I think he was a role model for a lot of people.
Yeah.
He was a role model for a lot of people who saw themselves not just as people who have an ideology, but warriors for an ideology. He was always on the offense when it came to promoting his ideas, always going places and sharing his ideas. Going on podcasts, going on, to conventions, on TV, all sorts of things. He was a very much a conservative, evangelist, I guess you would say. So yeah, I think he was a role model for a lot of people. That's why he got parodied just weeks before he died on South Park. It seems to me he was pretty proud of that South Park feature, even though, frankly, it's an unflattering feature. But
right, but he took it in stride. Yeah.
Yes, but if you, I don't think anyone on the history of the planet has ever gotten a flattering feature on South Park.
Right. Yeah.
Now,
I think you're just being humble about it. But
and me personally, a person who never was a fan of anything he said. It was funny to see. It was funny to see that. But anyways, what he represents for the right is kind of a new way of doing politics, or at least a new way for the young people. But he definitely, to me, he reminds me of guys like Rush Limbaugh.
Really?
Well, yeah, Limbaugh, and then maybe Bannon.
Well, I guess in what way do you mean? Because I would agree with you insofar as they were glue for the right.
Yeah.
I would disagree in terms of the way they were that glue, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I would just say, I wasn't an extremely close student of what Charlie Kirk was doing, but I see him as being an effective communicator in a way I really only see from the right, at least to me, or I see much more from the right, which is this. It is sort of a ideological evangelism. Like they're people. Right. They're people who just absolutely are advocates all the time, everywhere.
And I think the reason why you have that is because, and I think you'd agree with me to a certain degree, that our culture at large, over the last, I would say century, but maybe we want to zoom in a little more.
Yes.
Certainly over the last certain period of time, has trended to be more liberal, more left, I would say. I would say all the institutions, think even your Hollywoods, the entertainment class, if you will. Mm-hmm. Certainly like the bureaucratic class, right? The people, the self-operating part of government that kind of just runs, right? It just has imbibed this sort of liberalism. So
yeah, I would. It
naturally would cause the other side to be in a constant state of trying to advocate and
I would
be
agree.
A warrior.
I would agree that the media environment, at least it especially since the Obama era, I say has trended liberal. Maybe that trend is going to turn around with the new administration, who seems very interested in injecting itself into social issues, issues of the media, all sorts of things like that. But yes, right-wingers or right-wing commentators have been very skilled at presenting themselves, whether they are or not, that's a conversation for later, but presenting themselves as against the mainstream.
Right. Because I think they are.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's becoming less and less and less the case. I think
Yeah.
the second Trump election, I think if it proved anything, is that this wasn't like a one-time aberration. This is
I completely agree.
even if it won't last forever, it's certainly lasting for now.
I completely agree. I think anyone who ever believed that Trump and Trumpism were an aberration from the norm, I think are oblivious and will get repeatedly slapped in the face by the things that happen now in the future.
Yeah.
I think clearly what it all represents is something meaningful and something lasting. I don't say that with glee or exactly hope necessarily,
Right.
but I definitely think that.
Right. And I think, I guess kind of bring it back to the question.
Yeah.
Obviously, Charlie Kirk had his rise more or less alongside Trump's rise.
Yes.
Technically, no. Technically, he started off in 2012. But basically, his main ascendance was with Trump. And with that, he obviously represented, given how Trump was a big departure from GOP norms, he obviously represented a sort of new version of the right. I would say, maybe you'd agree.
Yeah.
I think, and I'll just say why I think that's significant. Maybe you'll agree, but for opposite reasons.
Yeah.
You'll agree what I'm saying, but disagree in what it means. And
Certainly a new right.
But I think the new right's defined as not being so ideologically married to, I would say, the ideology, maybe you want to call it neocons, whatever you want to call it. Basically, it's just like being very hawkish at all times, Chamber of Commerce, like whatever Mr. Monopoly says is always right, and then turning more towards neoliberalism, part of all these terms kind of become a little amorphous after a while, but that sort of the Paul Ryan flavor of I wouldn't call it conservatism. I just call it inordinate capitalism, but that's a different.
Whatever
anyway.
you say.
But in a turn more towards I would say more of a populism, which I think is inherently less ideologically orthodox, if you will. I think it's willing to, for example, Trump catering towards the working class, right, in 2016, 2020. That's not orthodox American conservatism, right?
Well, it's classic, correct, but it's classic populism, and when he won on those policies and went on to office, I mean, I would argue the rhetoric kind of revealed itself to just be rhetoric and not an intention. An active intention to actually.
I disagree, but we'll move past that point.
But yes, exactly. But this is we're talking about the character of the ideology and not exactly the action that ideology inspires.
Sure.
Or how meaningful it is to the people who have it. But yes, I agree. It's a new right, but I would also argue, even though it has the trappings of modernism of the modern day. It is also a return, like a new conservatism, or an advanced conservatism. Conservatism isn't typically flavored by looking forwards. I mean, it's kind of in the name. It's conservatism. It seeks to conserve, to preserve.
Preserve what though?
Oh, plenty of things. I would argue just look at the White House's Twitter page. Literally yesterday, I think, or maybe it was
I don't have
today.
Twitter, so it doesn't like
Okay,
me.
well, it's a fascinating look. But the Department of Homeland Security in particular, have you seen their Twitter page?
Is it like
like
1940s return to like the like American
return to tradition.
postcard?
Yes, it's straight out. It's straight out of 4chan. And I'm not saying
4chan.
It's no. It is return to tradition with a V. Pepe posting. It's the whole. I was online.
They're posting Pepe.
No. Well,
okay.
I'm speaking.
Oh,
metaphorically.
I see what you mean. Okay,
but
yes.
it's a very much traditionalist idea. I mean, whether it reflects the way things actually work is irrelevant. The point is that modern conservatism wants so desperately, or at least the ideology coming out of the White House wants so desperately to return to the way things were, to the 80s, to Reagan, to the 40s.
Well, not Reagan, I would say. But,
but they want less immigration. They want less immigrants. They want all sorts of things.
Well, I'll say this to kind of bring back to Kirk.
Yes,
Yeah.
Bring it back.
The reason why I was asking like conserving what is, I would say that in a way I would not call true conservatism, right? What I would try to abide by, I would not call that an ideology in the strictest sense, right? Why? Because a true conservative, let's say I don't know, I'm not sure how deep you want to get into this, but I would say a Burkean sort of Aquinas.
It's a tendency.
Right. It's a tendency. It's a wish to maintain a state of affairs that is in accord with the transcendentals, the good, just, and beautiful, right? And ideology, I would say, and I'm gonna bring back the Kirk in a second, but ideology, I would say, in the modern sense, in the post-Enlightenment sense, seeks to elevate other things to the proper, station of good, just, beautiful, right? The transcendentals.
Fair.
So, like Marxism, obviously, would put the I'm speaking very generally here, but like more or less would put like the whole class conflict, the whole proletariat bourgeoisie sort of thing as the ultimate thing to be worked towards, right? A capitalist, this is why I wouldn't call myself a capitalist, even though I believe in tenets of capitalism for pragmatic purposes. A capitalist would put, the market efficiency, firms, all that stuff as the most important thing. You see the general direction I'm going in. To bring it to Kirk really quick, then I'll let you respond. To bring it to Kirk really quick, I think why he was so important was, I think, bringing it back to whole like Paul Ryan, old conservative guard to what's new. I think his goal in listening to him was to move the right, or to help move the right, young people especially, that he was talking to and speaking to in a very particular way, more towards the conception I was talking about. And we can quibble over exactly to what degree do we line up exactly, but I think that was his role on the right.
Well, yes.
I gave you a lot.
Well, let's talk about what he advocated and what
more concretely
the role he had in tipping the scale towards what he advocated. You may think that conservatism is more of a tendency. Is that a better way to put it than ideology?
Sure.
Progressivism, I would argue a similar thing, but I think the tendency, if we're speaking in tendencies, I like that word because it's a little less specific. It leaves a little more room for interpretation. But I think the tendency that Kirk advocated in his life was towards, I'm going to use the F word, but it was a fascist tendency.
Fascistic, interesting.
It was a fascistic tendency, and I don't run from that word. I don't.
What do you mean by that word? Let's just be very clear. Let's set our terms here. Okay.
Fascism. The definition I prefer,
sure,
which you will see is a pretty biased definition, but it's a pretty popular one, and I think it comes from. Don't quote me on this. I think it comes from Adorno. Is fascism is conservatism in revolution. Socialism is liberalism in revolution. Marx took the ideology of the Enlightenment and he ran with it.
Sure.
He said, if all humans are equal, okay, class is the big hulking way in which we are made to be unequal. Let's revolution. Let's end class. I would argue fascism serves a similar function to conservatism. It takes the ideas there. It takes the tendencies there. And it makes them immediate. It makes them populist. It makes them violent, as all revolutions are. And I would argue, I don't know if Kirk certainly wouldn't have called himself a fascist. I mean, he wouldn't have liked being called that. But I see a lot of the tendencies he advocated. I do not think he was not a racist. I think he believed in the inherent supremacy of Christianity as an idea, frankly,
I do too. So
every
it's kind of my duty as a Christian to believe that.
No. Yeah. Yes, I was about to say every Christian ought to. I'm not one, but every Christian ought to believe that they've got it right. But he believed in Christianity as almost a state function. I don't think he
What makes you say like a lot of these things?
Oh, well,
I'm not asking you, 'cause it's unfair to pull out the exact receipt. Like what? No, I'm not asking you that. I'm just saying like a little more concretely.
Well, he how do I put that? He talked a lot about Christianity. He said, for example, he talked a lot about the West.
Right.
And the West is an idea, I think you'll agree with this definition, that at least sees itself as being defined by Christian society.
Yes.
And maybe I would also say, European Christian society, because, we don't consider Ethiopia to be part of the West.
Sure.
He saw that as not just the best, but it was inherently the best. Like he believed that the West was something, which is not super specific a concept, but the West needed to be enough. He believed it needed to be protected, and he believed it was under attack. It was under attack from the outside and from within. I think I see a lot of his concern about an in-group being under attack from outside and within, this urgent, this absolute need to fight, to die, to protect this. I'm
okay. Well, I think we're making a jump there.
I'm exaggerating only slightly, but he did believe the West needed to be protected. He did believe it was under attack, and I see a lot of these same tendencies in fascist rhetoric.
So, okay. So, I guess two questions. We'll see how many actually come out.
Yeah.
First, kind of what I was getting at, like, yes, right, of course, and I would agree with Kirk on this. I would say the West is under the idea of the West for what it has been building up to for so long.
Yes.
Is under attack. I would say less from outside, but definitely from within. I would say from aberrant, if you will, ideologies that seek to undo or undermine a lot of the work that has been, undergone for arguably millennia, building up the West to what it is. But here's the but. Like I think you make a leap when you then say it's worth fighting for, and it's in a very immediate, very visceral, very fascistic sense.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's fair enough to Kirk or people like him to say that this is a very important issue, or to say from the fact that they're saying that this is a very important issue, then say, oh, now they're calling for something that is a lot more extreme, approaching a sort of Mussolini, Hitlerian sort of.
Well, I would argue that what Kirk advocated did not arrive at that, but I certainly think it was on the footpath towards that sort of thing. It was approaching it, and
what makes you say, without asking you for a specific receipt, because I don't think that's fair. What makes you? That's a big claim.
Well, I think it's very simply, as I've said it, the prime concern, the highest concern of concerns for Kirk and for what he advocated was what needed to be preserved, which is this Christian society that he sees the U.S. as exemplifying, and its opposition. And I think that conflict being the conflict you focus on already makes you, at least to me, vulnerable to that.
Sure, you can be vulnerable to it.
On it.
Well, I think I can agree with you in that someone who cares about country, the nation, a sense of nation, a sense of historical tie to the West, right, or whatever relevant group you're talking about. I think that maybe that person is more likely than another to be drawn into a fascistic direction in theory, but that's still very far from saying that person is even on the footsteps of fascism.
No, it's just again, it's these similarities. Like, yes, I mean, being a patriot or whatever you call it, I'm sure that would make you more vulnerable. But I mean, he really believed. I don't know. I feel like this focus on this battle, this battle against things that seek to tear down the Christian America, the meritocratic America, and that was kind of his angle on DEI, was that it sought to tear down meritocratic and Christian system that had been set up. I just think fundamentally the focus of that conflict. It's that deep concern over that conflict as superseding all other conflicts that I see as being at the heart of fascism.
Isn't any political movement, more or less, I'm talking about the central case here, right? I'm sure you can bring up, random edge cases, but isn't basically every political movement in some way, shape, or form contextualized in the context of a fight of some sort? Ultimately, I'll just say it, some version of good versus evil, right? Like
in-group, out-group?
Not even in-group, out-group's a version of the general... Because, like, for example, if I'm running a political campaign, I necessarily am advocating for something at the expense of something else, right?
Yeah.
Or else I'd be running a pretty crappy campaign. So, I mean, here's the question. Is your concern more about the fact that he was creating a sort of, like, dichotomy here, or sort of like contrast?
No.
Or is it the fact that it's focused on the nation in the West?
It's the nature of the I believe...
Is that bad?
Yeah, I think so.
I think bad to focus on building your country in the West? Sorry.
First of all, I think being an ideologue and creating distinctions between forces you see as positive and forces you see as negative within society at large. I think that's your job essentially as an ideologue, is to make those distinctions. I think it is the nature of this distinction between the West and its insurgents or invaders. I think plain and simple. I think that's the kind of mash from which the alcohol of fascism kind of emerges, and I just think it's simple. It's simple as that. First of all, yes, I would kind of disagree with that protective instinct. I think many things in our society do need a second look. Many things that belong to the ideological camp of Christian society need a second look. And this is the fundamental premise of American society, is that in a democratic society, you have revision after revision after revision. Society changes over time. Ideas change over time.
To what end, though?
To what end? Well, that's a good question. I guess
I have an answer.
Yeah. Well, I guess for me, that would be a more equal and just society.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Equal as in, like, the point I'm trying to make without actually, like, answering the point isn't to answer the question. The point is to say that, like, any political movement, as I already said, is going to create some contrast, or else it would be a crappy political movement. But also, it's going to be advocating towards some end, right? Now, a true conservative would say that the end is maintaining a state of affairs that promotes the common good. So there's not actually a proper end because we're fault anyway. But the point, to keep it simple, any political, I would say, movement is going to, again, create contrast and advocate towards some end. You're saying, and I'm trying to pair it back to what you're saying, make sure I'm following. You're saying that the primary fault with Kirk, Trumpism, and how you describe it as almost being fascistic, the fault is that its end that it's seeking is to promote the West.
It's the in group. It's.
Well, what else is a group supposed to do besides promote itself?
Well, no, but it's a remarkably, and I think uniquely exclusive in group.
I'm trying to clarify things.
Yeah, but I mean, for Kirk, the West was the West means Christianity. I think that's an exclusive definition. I mean, it simply is, and I don't think. I mean, I think it is true that European society, of course, which is now essentially world ascendant, is essentially rooted in Christianity. But I also just think, what's the value in that? I just don't see. It's just I have so many values and I have so many concerns, and none of my values or concerns center around protecting something for its own sake, protecting this version of society for its own sake. I believe in protecting societies, groups, nations, etc., on their own merits. I just these are people who believed in Christian society, essentially a priori, that it was the height of all society, and that it needed to be shielded from all outside influences, which is just I don't understand.
Okay. So I was going to say something earlier, but I think I'm going to have lost it, but see if I can recover it. You were saying how you didn't like how Christianity in the West is being seen as the exclusive thing to be worked towards, something along those lines, right? Going back to this question of being fascistic.
Yeah.
I can see that you don't like that. I can see, as you said, it doesn't align with your values.
Well,
but I'm almost I almost feel compelled to ask, like, is what you're identifying as fascistic simply? It's gonna sound kind of pointed, but I think you'll see where I'm coming from with this. Is what you're defining as not being aligned with what you think simply what you're slapping on the fascist label?
Well, I define fascism as conservatism and revolution. I believe that is what Charlie.
Is there a revolution happening? Truly, a revolution from the roots. Because revolution's anti-conservative.
I'm not.
Revolution's anti-conservative. It's imprudent.
Conservatism and revolution. But
it's not conservatism. Sorry, I'm being.
Anyways,
yes.
but
and we'll go to Mamdani in a second.
What was the question?
Yeah. So I'm still struggling. Let's bring it back. I'm still struggling with. I'm still struggling with. I get what you're saying in terms of you don't. But what I'm getting from you right now, let's back it up even more, is you don't like the fact that you don't like the focus of the new right, headed by in part Charlie Kirk. And you think the focus is misdirected?
It's
I'm still missing the link between that and fascism.
Okay, well, anyways, Charlie Kirk had ideological tendencies that align with the current state ideology that I see as exclusive, as repressive, and honestly kind of inconsiderate of other viewpoints.
But that just sounds like mean. That doesn't sound like fascism yet.
I'm getting there.
Okay, fair enough.
As inconsiderate of other viewpoints, and fundamentally with a belief that conservatism isn't just something that happens, but we need. This was Trump's rhetoric, and I think Kirk was a pretty good approximation of the Trump movement and his rhetoric. But this was Trump's rhetoric, is that we need a storm, or at least this was the whole QAnon thing. Was that I don't want to veer too far, but there's this fundamentally belief that Trump is going to come in the White House and he's going to move fast and break shit, right? That's the idea, that he's going to turn everything upside down, drain the swamp. That was the first term, and I think where he disappointed a lot of people in his first term by governing mostly as a regular Republican.
This is a personnel issue, by the way.
This time, yes, he didn't. His staff were not complete loyalists the first time, and now they are complete loyalists. But now he really is moving fast and breaking shit. I mean, whether you think he's breaking the law, I think his administration has broken the law in so many ways it doesn't even matter anymore. But whether he's certainly skirting the law.
Sure, no,
you can at least,
I'm laughing at the way you phrased it.
You can at least agree that the Trump administration, which I believe represents everything that Charlie worked for, and I think Charlie had a hand in making everything that's happening right now happen, is moving fast and breaking shit. It's all with the aim.
Literally in the East Wing.
Yes, exactly. All with the aim of moving society back to a better time. That has been everything that comes out of the White House.
I don't think they would characterize it that way.
It is. I see it. It's conservative, and it has a revolutionary tendency. I see that as a fascist tendency.
Okay, so I'll say this, and then we'll kind of wrap it up and move on to Mamdani.
Yes.
I feel like we're probably pushing half an hour now.
Yeah.
I would say it's not an urge just to move things backward. I think the imagery of the past is
return to tradition.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Tradition, not in so far as necessarily just following everything or even a great amount of what happened in the past, but tradition in seeing that we're on a path, right? We're on the path as the West, right? Let's say down a trail. I'll put it like a trail, right? We're on a trail. we are, with the help of Christianity, I would say in great part, as the West, progressing as a society, progressing in the true sense of the term, right? Like actually progressing. And then at some point, we can argue as to exactly what this point was. But let's just say at some point in the 20th century, we took a wrong turn.
Thatcher and Reagan.
I wouldn't say that, but I would put it anyway. We took a wrong turn. We started going down the line of liberalism, right? I think the wrong term was the Enlightenment, but that's a different conversation.
Neoliberalism.
The Enlightenment for me, but
Enlightenment.
Yes, we took a wrong turn.
The Enlightenment was a wrong turn?
Yes.
That's crazy for me.
No,
that is insane for me.
I'm not a classical liberal.
But literally before Enlightenment, we were Europeans were digging mud huts and thinking that
I'm not saying
goat
that
spit cures cancer.
I'm not saying that nothing good came out of the post-Enlightenment world. Of course, that'd be an absurd statement.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I think that in terms of our political philosophies, we made it wrong.
Yeah.
Without getting off topic, the point I'm trying to make is what the idea of conservatism, I think, to them, and I would agree with this, is less of an arbitrary. That's the word. Arbitrary, just and a blind return to the past. It's we identify that we were much more on the trail in the past, so we should pull things back a little bit to get back on the trail, so to speak, so we can continue forward, right? The conservatism is not in just a rote following of the past. The conservatism is in following the principles that were more adhered to in the past and using those principles to progress into a better in just future.
Yeah, but when the government is posting pictures of crusaders,
that's just we call it. That's called we do a little bit of trolling. That's just.
I know. I'm sorry. I refuse to believe. A million times I've been told by people who like Trump and like what he does. Oh, it's all just a joke.
Well,
all the government posted. No, you said we do a little trolling.
Well, trolling doesn't mean it's all a joke.
I've been told 1,000 times that it is a little trolling.
Yeah.
And every time I see something where I'm like, you tell me this is trolling, but this seems a little fashy to me. This seems a little fascist to me. And then the next day, some new fascist thing. I think the valence of we do a little troll. I think this is something that Kirk took advantage of too. Is that whenever Trump and his camp say something that is not only skirting, basically defying basic human norms. It's we do a little trolling. I
basic
refuse to believe it. I refuse to believe.
I do want to move on, but you keep bringing stuff up like this.
I just think that as Kirk said a lot of things.
Yeah.
But ultimately, he was an ideologue that was aligned with the government or aligned with the movement and the type of belief that is now in the White House, now in the government, and post themselves making videos of immigrants hogtied, getting sent back to their country,
with that,
being put on plane. Yeah, it's and you said when I was describing kind of the ideology of Kirk, you were like, this just sounds like mean, not like fascism. I agree, it's mean. It's cruel. I see a lot of cruelty in politics, and of course, obviously, with regards to Charlie Kirk, the cruelty that permeates. I think a little bit on the left. You would think probably a lot on the left, but I think is really a right-wing phenomenon. That environment of cruelty is what sadly killed him. And now I'm not gonna say.
Unfortunately, my might be a little pushed to the curb here because I think we just keep uncovering new things. All right, so I'll say two things really quick. Just to clarify the whole mean point, I wouldn't characterize it as mean. As a whole, I will say that video you're referring to where they were showing the immigrants. I think that was wrong. I'll make that clear. But I would say, just to clarify, when I was saying that what you were describing, how you were describing the Trump movement was mean, I just meant to say in terms of how you were describing it, right? I don't want to let this fascism question get away from us. I know we keep. I feel like it hasn't been satisfied enough because. When we use the word fascist, at least before 5 years ago, right?
Yes.
I mean, fascism was what we had in World War II with
the definition
Mussolini.
The definition I'm using I believe was of fascism was created, I think, during World War II or in the direct aftermath of World War II.
But what you gave me is less of a definition and more of just like a almost like a heuristic, just to like, estimate what it, you see what I mean? Like it's sort of like saying conservatism is about conserving. It's like, okay, it's not a true definition.
Let me put it very simply. In countries and societies that go off the cart and go fascist, I see certain tendencies, certain beliefs, certain ways of governing, and I see all of those tendencies, beliefs, and ways of governing in what is being enacted now, and I saw those in what Charlie Kirk advocated.
Let's try to do this a little Socratically here. I said that really quickly.
Yes, absolutely.
Besides fascist Italy, which I think everyone would agree was fascist because like they kind of more or less coined the modern phraseology of it. What other countries would you say have been fascists? And please don't say Franco's Spain, because that wasn't fascism. Those phalanges, that's a little different. Anyway,
Franco's Spain was fascist. Franco's Spain was fascist. Obviously, okay. Nazi else? Germany.
Nazi a flavor of fascism.
Actually, Franco's Spain, a fantastic. This might be the heart of our disagreement, as I think. I agree. Now we don't need to go through a history lesson, but I think Franco's Spain was like textbook fascism. It was fascism that was smart enough to say we probably shouldn't declare war on the entire planet, and it survived in Spain until the 70s. Franco died and he left old man in the 70s.
King Juan Carlos, and he didn't continue anyway.
Yeah, it's just like. But I think that gets to the heart.
So what makes that fascism?
Obviously,
without using the same
Franco's Spain was extremely conservative.
Yes,
it was a Christian.
Yes.
It was Christian, and it was extremely conservative. And it was if it wasn't revolutionary, it certainly was. It
was not revolutionary. It was the opposite, I would say.
It beat the revolution. Well, if the revolutionaries had won, the Francoists would have been the revolutionaries. But what I mean to say is it's very simple. It's a highly conservative, highly Christian. I don't think both of those things make a fascism, but I think that element of leader worship. I think it was stupid. It was stupid. It was. It's absurd already that Franco was able to rule for 40 years. What's
inherently bad about that?
Remind me again. Did they have elections?
No.
Okay. Yeah. See, are
elections inherently good?
Yes.
Absolutely not.
Elections are good.
Absolutely not. Democracy is not inherently good either. None of these things are inherently good. They're all instrumental goods in service, hopefully towards the ultimate
I think
good.
Democracy is the best thing we're ever going to get.
Oh, I don't know about that one.
Democracy is the best thing we're ever going to get. The more enlightened society gets, the more intelligent we all are.
But enlightened towards what though? Like, what is the light exactly?
Better educated, better people who believe in equality. People believe in meritocracy, which is a big conservative.
Why do all those things matter?
Because that's the fundamental of a just society, a society where everyone is considered equal. This is the Enlightenment, and I see your opposition to the Enlightenment right now.
Yeah,
it's a society where everyone considers themselves equal. I'm not saying everyone has to have the same IQ score.
No, I know what you mean.
I mean everyone is considered equal. Everyone has the means and the ability to succeed to their level of success. That's
what is success?
Well, that's what. To fulfill their needs, we're getting two different definitions. This is why
I think it matters because the word fascism, and hopefully you don't mind the whole podcast being about fascism.
Even if you don't exactly get the gist of what I'm saying, you can agree fascism is the opposite of all that. It's the opposite of a society where everyone agrees that we're all equal. It's the opposite of a society that values democracy. It's the opposite of a society that values opposing viewpoints, dissent, free expression. And all of this, I think you see with the second Trump administration. People fired. Let's talk about Charlie Kirk. People fired for expressing their, sometimes vulgar opinions about the Charlie Kirk assassination.
I think we're making a very perilous, if you will, logical error here. I think what we're saying, and this is the importance of getting to real definitions, right?
Yes.
Something that Plato was talked
But
about, right?
I mean, as you know, a conversation about definitions can last forever.
Sure, and I know we can go on forever, and unfortunately, I might have to leave Mamdani out of this and kind of make it about Kirk. I hope you don't mind, but
no, this is more interesting conversation.
But I think
if you ask me about Mamdani, I would just say I really like him. That would be a
sure, but I think the error we're making here is that we're pointing at qualities that we can observe.
Yeah.
Examples of fascism.
Yeah.
Have or had.
Yes.
And then saying we see some of those same observations happening in our current political situation.
Correct. Yeah.
Therefore, fascism, however, I mean, I'll kind of give a little reductio ad absurdum here. It's like, again, I'm prefacing it's hyperbolic, but like I can see an apple and say red, and then see a red ball and then say apple.
I think
you see the error here. It's because we have similar.
I really don't see the error. I can look as a rational thinking person and see characteristics of Nazi Germany, of fascist Italy. I can look at characteristics of their society, their ideology, and their state. I can look at the characteristics of those and say, if I see enough matches between what happened then and now, I feel comfortable in saying that we live in a fascist society. I don't think I need to make those observations to say that the current state ideology is fascist. But that's a different distinction. I can just look at the ideology that's being presented right now. I think on its own that's a fascist ideology.
Do you think fascism is compatible with Christianity? And before you answer the question, I'm going to put forward my positive argument because I was kind of negatively approaching it.
Yeah.
I'll put forward my positive argument. I would say, for other reasons, but just irrelevant to the conversation, I'll say this in particular. I would say what we're seeing from the Trump administration now, what Kirk advocated for and others like him advocated for, is not fascistic, because fascism, I would say, if it's not the full definition, at least it's part of the full definition, the real definition of fascism, it exalts to the degree of an ultimate good.
Yeah.
The idea of the state, the idea of the people, as almost like a living corpus, if you will.
Yeah, which is anti...
And the leader. Now, the reason I asked the question about Christianity is because to exalt anything else to the ultimate good, other than, the perfect good himself, that is, our Lord Jesus Christ, that, and God, obviously the full Trinity, anything in conflict with that is anti-Christian.
I would agree. I would agree that fascism is...
Hitler was knocking down crosses off of churches for a reason.
I agree that fascism is anti-Christian, but what I would say to you is that Christianity can be anti-Christian.
Okay, how does that make sense?
Let me explain how that makes sense. Christians have believed all sorts of things for all sorts of reasons. The Catholic Church... We know this, was buddy-buddy with Nazi Germany.
That's not true. Oh, come on. Come on.
Mussolini gave them the Vatican. Mussolini gave them the Vatican City.
That doesn't mean they're buddy-buddy. It's because he realized like Italy would revolt if they knocked over the seat of St. Peter.
Nazi Germany was at least a little friendly with the Catholic Church. They weren't stepping on each other's toes.
Okay, what about all the Jews the Vatican sheltered within its walls? What about St. Maximilian Kolbe?
I agree. I'm saying that yes, Christian ideology, I think should be considered anti-fascist. Antifa, Christ was Antifa, we might say. But no, I'm messing with you a little bit.
Sure.
But I agree that Christianity and fascism are incompatible. I just think that frankly Christians en masse that is not a calculation that Christians en masse in a fascistic society will make. Evangelicals post pictures.
I'm going to distance myself from the evangelicals.
Yes, I know,
as a Catholic,
but as a representative of the right, you recognize that the reason the right is so powerful in this country right now is because of American evangelicals.
Sure, yeah.
They are the big force behind it. They're posting pictures of AI videos of
yes, that's ridiculous.
Of Christ cradling
that's
Charlie Kirk.
sacrilegious, obviously, and blasphemous.
It is, but there's millions of them, and they all voted for Trump, and they all advocate what he does.
I want to draw a very important distinction because there's a similar argument made against Christianity as a whole that Christianity teaches X, Y, and Z, but Christians don't do X, Y, and Z. Therefore,
that's an argument against Christians, not Christianity.
No, but I see an analogous thing happening here in that you're saying that Christianity in and of itself, true in its true instantiation, the Catholic Church.
No.
But seriously, in its true instantiation it cannot be fascist. Truly, right?
Yes, but again, it's an idea.
Sure.
Christianity is an idea.
But here's my thing.
And we are all holders of that idea.
Let's take Charlie Kirk as a person, because I think we'd obviously agree that he valued his Christianity very much. He was always talking about, he was always promoting the gospel, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, in a way that I see as making him even more vulnerable to fascism.
But here's what I would say: if someone in their political ideology or what drives them truly is putting as their ultimate good following Christ, right?
Yeah.
Following the good, just, and beautiful as expressed Christianity, the perfect good, all these things, and that slot, if you will, of what
absolutely
qualifies as the ultimate good is not the state, is not this living body of the people, sort of Nazi Germany.
Absolutely.
If that's not there, how can you call them fascistic? By definition, they don't meet the qualification.
No, I agree. Society is sliding back. Society is getting less Christian. Christ is going to save us from this we're in, and he's going to send a man to do it, and that is Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will wield the power of the state in service of Christ to bring us back to a Christian society. That's what they're saying. That's what's being said.
Did Charlie Kirk ever make such a
I don't know
claim?
if he,
I don't think he did.
I don't know if he ever said that.
I think what you're saying right now is a slight caricaturizing of some of the most wacky evangelicals out there. They're wrong.
It is a common evangelical. I don't know how closely Charlie Kirk observed sort of evangelical Protestantism. I don't even know if he was a Protestant.
He was, yeah.
But that is a common thread, is that society has gotten more degenerate, more unchristian, and that Christ is going to send a guy to wield the power of the state and make everything better.
I think
that is a belief, and I don't know if Charlie Kirk ever said those exact words, but I think everything he ever did and advocated for lined up with that basic proposition that society is getting more and more unchristian, unwestern. The West is getting unwesternized.
But what if we tone down
and that Trump is the guy who's going to save it?
But what if we tone down what you're saying? Because what you're saying is a very, I would say, slightly characterized, at least at best, reflective of an extreme part of MAGA right. I think most of MAGA, most people who aren't MAGA proper but would generally support Trump, would say that, okay, it's a little extreme. I'm not sure if Trump's the second messiah here, but Trump certainly in his political program is going to help us, is going to advance that goal more than the alternative. I think that's what Kirk would say. I think that most of the right would say that what Trump is doing is certainly going to help advance the goal of bringing America back to its Western, its Christian roots, which is a toned down version of what you're saying. And then if that is said, it's like, okay, what it basically redounds to is, okay, our political guy is going to help us forward the goals of our country and bring us back to a sense of a greater sense of relative virtue and goodness.
And we're going to do that by cutting aid to the poor, kicking legal migrants out, just general suppression of freedom of speech. I'm just saying, even the slightest, I'm arguing even the slightest tendency between Christianity and this sort of new conservatism is just, I think it's a false. I think they should be against each other. But again, ultimately, I'm not a Christian, and I think a better society would be an unchristian one. But at least I only make that argument in order to say that I really think we should develop something new and do away with both.
So I'll just make clear that I'll put that aside, right? The question of what exactly does Christian governance look like? I think that's a separate conversation.
Yes.
Maybe one that you're not the most concerned about.
But
what I would
certainly
say,
Charlie Kirk would have cared about is that question.
sure.
He would
But
have cared about
what I would say is, we can say that whatever this political, movement rightly is called, you can say that its effects, some of its effects at least, aren't good, right? I could yield that point, even though I wouldn't. But let's just say, for argument's sake, I could yield that point without yielding the whole argument over whether it's fascistic, unless we're just going to call, unless, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about the whole meme thing, we're going to call what we're going to say what we don't like is fascistic.
No.
And here's
there
an
are a lot of
upshot
things
here.
I don't like that
think,
aren't fascistic.
but you know what I mean, like in this realm, right? And I think the danger is the word fascism. We can we can assign a definition like the one you assigned it, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, to your average person, to most people, that causes a recollection of a particular moment in time and certain things happening in a certain decade of the 20th century.
I agree. I agree.
I guess the question is, don't you think it is dangerous, especially in light of what happened to Charlie, to assign that sort of language to your opposition?
I don't think it's dangerous. I think the danger is already there, and labeling what I believe is fascist as fascist is not dangerous. It's a necessity. It's a necessity for danger already there and danger on the horizon. And I agree. When we hear fascism, we shouldn't automatically think of concentration camps of World War. As Hannah Arendt, who is a very great scholar of fascism and anti-Semitism and the rise of the Nazi Party, she felt that the fascism or the fascist instinct or the fascist ideology as it manifests in the individual is a rather mundane thing. It's a rather mundane and common thing. Fascism isn't some faraway boogeyman in the annals of the past. Yes, there are far right, crazy, reactionary fascist groups, but I think that fascist tendencies and fascist ideas are all too common.
Sure.
I think they're mundane, and I think they're quite easy to have.
Not to interrupt you, but I'm just trying to wrap the podcast up now, I suppose. So I'll just ask you a couple more questions, and I'll ease off the,
Of course.
I'll just ask you, and this is going to be a weird question given the connotation on the word, but I ask this not in any sort of leading way, but just as just to be clear, why in your mind is fascism bad?
It is anti-egalitarian. It is anti-democratic. I think these are things that lead to just society. It is frankly, the rule of law, because I think the rule of law should apply to everyone equally, and a rule of law that doesn't apply to everyone equally is not law. It's militaristic. I don't like.
And all these things are inherently bad. That's what you're saying. The anti-democracy, anti-egalitarianism.
Well, I don't think they're bad because God told me they're bad. I think they're bad because they lead to shitty, cruel, exclusive societies and unhappy people.
Okay, and I'm gonna follow this thread a little bit.
That's why I don't like.
Why are those? Why is, again, as an intellectual exercise, why is, you said, an unequal, what the exact words you said, unequal, cruel, you said, society?
Because that's unscientific.
That's
unscientific.
So the foundation for what you, again, correct me if I'm wrong, for what you see as just and good is scientism. It is the science of human flourishing and human equality. I think. Do you mean science in an empirical sense, or science in the classical sense of knowledge, skia or skire?
I would say both. But I think fundamentally all people are equal, which is of course a proposition that fascism denies.
And I would deny too, but yeah.
Well, all people have.
Sorry, I said
all people have. I should say all people have the ability to be equal. All people have the ability to be equal. Okay, well.
Sure. Go on. Keep explaining your...
or at least I should say a person's place of origin, a person's race, a person's religion does not restrict them anyway from enjoying the fruits of
and leading equally flourishing lives.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Equally valuable and flourishing.
Oh, I would agree in terms of value, but
yes, but that's my point. The Nazis were not interested in discussing whether Jews could live flourishing, valuable.
So if the American right,
likewise, I see the current government as not very interested in acting like migrants or, frankly, minorities of any flavor can lead flourishing, happy, productive lives.
Well,
I don't think the government is interested in that.
I'm glad we got here because I think this is a very important part because now we're talking about the substantive outcomes of fascism, right?
Yes, which is inequality.
So I would say, I would say that this is where it gets kind of weird. I would agree insofar as, a country primarily it's ordo mores, the thing that J.D. Vance talked about, and that has been in classical.
The Pope disagreed with him on that.
Yes,
I disagree with him on that.
Pope Leo.
The Pope's on my side.
Pope Leo disagreed. I'm afraid Thomas Aquinas disagrees with the Pope on this one.
I don't, frankly, in my heart of hearts, I don't really give a either, think.
Sure, but I think the point, and just to be clear, I was being a little facetious when I made the comment about the Pope, just so I'm not committing mortal sin.
Yeah,
but
Chicagoan.
But the point I'm trying to make here is, I do think a country has a right to. I think in general, for a long time, people would generally agree. Americans that you certainly wouldn't call fascists would agree. Even Bill Clinton, I believe, would agree that Americans have the right, as people from any other country, to serve themselves first before we're nice enough to serve people who are not in our group, right? The government of America, the state of the state, right, of America, if you will, exists for Americans primarily, and then if we have leftovers, so to speak, then we're able to help others in this very concrete way, right? Not that we don't care about others in general, but in this very concrete way of helping, then we serve our own, then we helped others. The question though is, would you call that impulse fascistic? We'll go there, and then I'll ask you one more question, and we'll wrap up.
No, I think ultimately, it's unfortunate. I wish we lived in a global society where we can say we can all uplift each other. We can all help each other out. My excess is your,
kumbaya, utopia. I'm messing with you.
Well, but seriously, seriously, we should at least be. I don't know as an end goal, but certainly we should be making baby steps towards a global society that's more equal. But I would not call that a fascist instinct. But
so
I would call if you took it far enough. Yeah.
What does that mean, though?
If you took it far enough and said, not only are we America and we help ourselves out before we help others, but we have a right to be helped before others are helped. Doesn't that
necessarily follow? If I'm saying that the state exists for the people primarily, doesn't it follow that the people have a right to be helped primarily? I feel like that necessarily follows.
Well, yes, but I'm saying that it's a rather simple evolution of that idea that I see as leading to fascism. Of course, it would be absurd to call that idea on its own fascist, but
you're saying in concert with other
I also
things.
think there's an internal. It's not just America saying we're going to help out Americans first, because what about the poor?
Right.
What about the needy?
This is my second question.
What about the migrants living in America, who some would argue are not American, who some would argue are American, who some would argue are on the precipice between being American and not being American? How do we take care of those? It's a much more complicated question than our country and then others.
And the last question I'm going to ask you is kind of what you're getting at. You're talking about how a part of this in-group, out-group, or the out-group, if you will, is not only those outside of the country, but are certainly, you said, marginalized minorities in the country.
Yeah.
The so part A, I guess. Question part A, sure, is then the in-group, I guess, just like WASPs, right? White Anglo-Saxon Protestants, right?
Well, the in-group is complicated.
Okay.
The in group is never simple, but yeah,
sure.
I guess you could.
And
say
then
that,
talking about the purported out group,
yeah,
we would say minorities.
Yeah.
You would say, and that not only racial, but just in terms
Yeah.
of different groups.
It's in the in group out group.
Well, here's a question in terms of fascism,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Is a political movement that does not serve, or is aimed at serving, or has a result of
Yeah.
clearly catering to and serving
Yeah.
minorities, etc.
Yeah.
Is such a political movement inherently trending towards fascism?
Well, it depends on the nature of the in group. If the in group is defined as being the majority, either racially or economically, yeah, I would definitely argue that that's trending towards. I mean, yeah, because I don't know. I fundamentally I think. Yeah, I don't know. That preferential treatment is just it seems anti-American to me. It seems anti-Constitution to me. That kind of separate. Well, not exactly. I mean, the Constitution had the 3/5 compromise in it. So again, sometimes the Constitution misses. But
which, by the way, is why Dred Scott was justified. That's a different conversation.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
I was just dropping that in there just to be a little rage bait. I'm sorry, but I hate to cut it off. I think we've gone way over time.
Really? What time is it?
The computer shut off over there, but I think we are an hour 5 minutes.
Wow.
So okay. Well, time flies when you're having fun. So that's why I wanted to kind of
yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think we had a very good conversation. Yeah. I think this could go on for several more hours, as you were saying. And
Zohran Mamdani, not a fascist. We both agree.
I agree. He is not a fascist. There we go. There's your bipartisanship.
We reached him. All right.
He is bad for other reasons, but he's not a fascist.
I think he's good for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Bad for very few.
Curtis Silva. How do you say his last name? Sliwa.
I was shot 17 times in the back of the London Eye and one of those little things that goes around.
Oh, man.
The Gambinos and the Gottis shot me 18 million times.
Anyway, Cole, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, right.
And thank you all for listening. Hope to see you guys back next time.
Absolutely. Good conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to shake your hand here.
Absolutely.